Hello, hello. Today's conversation is for the mom who is physically present with her babies, but mentally 100 miles away. She is finally ready to come home to herself. I am joined by Caitlin Lane, a healing arts therapist who masterfully blends ancient wisdom and modern science to help people get out of their overthinking minds and step fully into their bodies. So her work is deeply rooted in the power of the breath, honoring feminine wisdom and guiding others to connect with themselves in the deepest way possible. So, off the clock, Caitlin is a devoted wife, a dreamer, a sensitive and curious soul, and a self described lover girl. Her life and her work are anchored by some of her deepest values, which are time, presence, and community. Today, we're going to be diving into the identity loss that so many moms quietly grieve and what it actually means to be present with our children when our minds will not stop running. We're going to talk about the unique layered experience of being a bonus mom. Caitlin is also going to share real embodied tools that you can take into your day to day. So this conversation all in all is going to be very tender, grounding, and I know so needed. So Caitlin, I'm so honored to have you here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
All right. Well, I kind of explained a little bit about your background being a wife
Yeah,
and a bonus mom and all of that, but I want you to give us your elevator speech of kind of how you first place.
yeah,
Just kind of share your story a little bit.
yeah. Okay, beautiful. I will attempt to make it short and simple and sweet. I have a background in social services actually. I spent, 15 years right in the depths of the front lines in the field. At some point along those lines, I recognized that I was exhausted by the burnout and the systemic issues and all of the nitty-gritty pieces. I actually came this woman that I knew years and years and years ago. I seen her making changes in her life and it kind of brought upon that there's different out there. Oh, there's something else that I can do. And so I've just slowly been taking the steps towards that. Moving into moving into the energetics. I really got to know and love, the plants and the emotional benefits, and that kind of turned into being deeply connected to my breath, like finding training and just watching what was actually something to do for myself became everything that I am about now. And so I've just, blended my journey in the social services and wanting to always help people into my regular life too. Like I bring it all in. You kind of mentioned that I'm a wife. I'm a bonus mom to my two beautiful bonus babes, I call them. And, we live a simple, very present life out in the country with our chickens and our dogs and our cats. And yeah, just like you said, time, presence is everything here. And that's really, I believe, what we're not taught as a society. And so I'm kind of here to slow it down a little bit, I guess.
I absolutely love that. Are you still doing social work then?
I mean, no, technically not. I do have my own practice as a healing arts therapist, but I did step out of the traditional and I decided to not register myself as a social worker just because of systemic things. So I don't technically go by that title, no.
Yeah, I'm sure that was a very teachful series of your life for sure. I know I have a couple friends and I'm just like, that world is hard and yeah, mentally taxing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, that was a wild time. It was a wild time of my life for sure.
well, so happy to dig into more of your talents here and your gifts. So, my first question for you is so many moms describe feeling like they've lost themselves in motherhood. And I feel like that is I can relate to that. I totally had lost myself in motherhood. And what I feel like we typically do is, we reach for, hobbies or girls' trip or self care to try to find ourselves again. But they just never quite come back. And so from your perspective as a healing arts therapist, what is actually happening on a somatic and energetic level when a woman loses her identity in motherhood?
Yeah. Well, when anybody loses their identity, it's often because we're stuck up or down in what is called survival mode. Lots of people can recognize, that fight, flight, freeze, fawn responses is what happens on a nervous system level. And, because of the, I'm going to call it beautiful chaos of motherhood and children and the always needing things and all of the pieces, it's constantly it's almost like a constant attack on our systems, right? in a way, right? And so we get triggered by the simplest things, like mom, 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 whatever it may be. And our bodies just like constrict and, clench. And it takes us into what our natural survival patterns are. Our nervous system is everything, truthfully. And on an energetic level, which is actually the same as the nervous system, only the energetic level is the ancient wisdom, and the nervous system is like the logic talk to it.
Oh, I love that.
So it's all kind of like it's energy moving through your bodies. And so like same thing, just like explaining more, I guess, on the emotional level. So emotion is energy in motions. It's when we feel that clench, when we feel that whatever is happening because of, the constant at us, it's like a trigger for an emotion, an emotional experience that we've had. And so that's when the nervous system kind of kicks in and takes us to our natural survival patterns.
Yeah, and the patterns are, different from,
Everybody.
everyone.
Yep.
And this is my tie into human design, which
Yeah.
actually shows you your pattern specifically. So
Yeah.
gives you straight roadmap there. But one thing that I wanted to ask you is what is the very first practice or shift a mom listening today can do in the next, 24 hours to begin coming
Mhm.
home to herself in her own body? And not by adding like more to her plate.
Yeah. I love that you added that, not adding more to her plate, because that was like the first thing I was going to say. Like, don't make this a task, to do for yourself. At the end, the very actually, it can all be very basic and very simple and not as hard as, the world maybe makes us think that it has to be. It can be as simple as connecting to your breath. The simplest one is what is called a perfect breath. And so it's an inhale in through the nose or the mouth for 5 seconds and out for 5 seconds. And just continuing to repeat that literally as you are waking your kids up, as you're doing the dishes, as you're doing all the things that come along with life. It just reminding yourself to connect to that little breath, because over time it helps calm our systems.
I didn't realize that because breath work has been something that has been extremely beneficial to me. It's the
Mhm.
lifeline of my nervous system
Mhm.
regulatory. But I didn't realize the other day, my aunt, she was like, I have trouble breathing. And I'm like, what do you mean by that? And she's like, I literally just don't breathe. And she's like, people have pointed that out to me. And I'm like, that is so interesting. But like, reflecting on me before, kind of my awakening or, whatever you can
Yeah.
say,
Yeah.
I didn't breathe either. Like I would
No,
hold
me
my
either.
breath all day. And I
Me
just
too.
want moms to like kind of like reflect on that also. Like, are you actually breathing?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. It's a survival mechanism where our breath just can't take that full piece because of all of the triggers that are always happening, be it a mom, be it your notifications on your phone, be it the wild that's out in your life. We're not taught to breathe. And so it's yeah, such a real thing. And I relate to. I would catch myself not breathing at all.
So just take even one breath, I feel like, in the next 24 hours or just,
Yeah.
kind of reflect on that question. Like, are you even breathing? But I love that I didn't realize and like breathing in through your mouth too is beneficial as well. I always thought that you should only breathe through your nose.
Yes, breathing in through your nose is always like ideal for like your normal regular breathing, but there are, techniques and practices that you breathe in through the mouth that is actually the way that I'm trained and the way that I've witnessed transformations. But day to day, yes, nose.
Okay. Well, cool.
Yeah.
Well, I can't wait to explore in more of these practices because yeah, I feel like I've always been breathing through my nose. I feel like one thing I that just came to me, like I am such a like heavy breather now, like very conscious that like in public, like I will be like and
Yeah,
like and people, I don't know if this has ever happened to you, but like strangers will look at me like thinking that I'm like pissed off or something like that. And I'm like, no, just regulating myself over here.
it took it's funny you say that. It took my husband a while ago. He's like, "Are you pissed? Did I do something?" No, just doing my thing. You're good.
Same. He's always like now he doesn't question it, but for sure, whenever I started it, he would be like, "What's going on? What's wrong?" And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, just over here breathing." So One of the most painful things moms experience is being physically present with their kids while their minds are 100 miles away. So, like
Mhm.
running the grocery list, replaying the argument, scrolling without scrolling. Like they
Mm.
feel guilty for it, and the guilt keeps them even more disconnected. So, as someone, who works with, the breath as the doorway into presence, like, can you walk us through like what is happening in the nervous system when this mental drift happens, and give us like one breath practice that maybe like something a mom can do in, 60 seconds while she's like folding laundry or sitting at the table that brings her back into her body and into the room with her child.
So again that's just like a survival pattern. It's best way to explain it is because I think a lot of people can relate is the anxiety is our it's our systems, it's our energy, it's our emotions like all hopped up in here, right? Because we're taught to lead from the mind and not from the body. So a big piece of it is because we're so stuck up in our minds. And from a nervous system level, it's survival. That simple couple-minute practice. It's one of my favorite ones to really help us relax, come down out of our minds is called a 6-7-8 breath. And so what that looks like, actually, can we just do it right now?
Let's
Is that
do
okay?
it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
of course.
Perfect. Okay. So yeah, it's really just, number one, plant your feet on the ground. You want to make yourself feel grounded even as you are folding the laundry or doing the things, whatever. You want to feel yourself touching the surface because that's just another layer to help us, come back down into our bodies. But as for a breath, if it feels right, if that's okay, maybe close down your eyes for a moment and let's take an inhale in through our mouth for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and hold it for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 1, and exhale for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we'll just do one more round of that. We'll go in for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it for 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let it go for 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. You breathe in for 6, you hold it for 7, you breathe out for 8. And even, going back to, people who can't breathe, you can make it shorter than that. You can do in for 3, hold for 4, out for 5. Do what your body's capable of because, we're all learning, we're all finding our way back home. Whatever. It doesn't need to be that long because I know when I first started, it was that I couldn't do that. So at any length, know that is perfect and increase as you're able to.
Yeah. Start with 60 seconds. I feel like that's such a good threshold for like my
Yeah.
clients. And then just like add another minute. Like just start there because I do feel like it is like super daunting. And I know I've seen it time and time again from my clients of like when I tell them to like, meditate for 10 minutes, they're like, I can't do that. So I'm like, okay, just do it for a minute and then build. That was amazing too. Like even for me, like I breathe a lot, but like I can't breathe enough, I feel like there's no such thing. And like I just felt my shoulders drop and I could feel my heart, like the heartbeat whenever I was holding my breath. Like that is such a cool sensation.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yeah. Our bodies are wild.
They really are. So one thing kind of going back to my, folding the laundry, you trying to be present with your kids. How do you build boundaries around that? Because like laundry, grocery list, like all that, stuff still has to get done. Tell me how you kind of take those scenarios to, help moms still be present though with their kids and that's what they want.
Mm-hmm. I think an important piece is bringing your kids into it. As much as like it can be a little more exhausting because you fold something and then they grab it and take away the work that you've done. I think bringing them into it is such a catalyst, not only because are you present with them in that moment, but you're also like teaching them, unconsciously of things that like need to get done because a kid who's just like playing by themselves, which is great too, of course, always, but who doesn't see and witness these things grow up to be people who don't know how to do these things. And, so like number one is, include them in it as much as it can be draining. Include them in your breath, right? Because kids, like, they're going to grow up with thoughts and things going on too. So the earlier you start, the better too, including them. Breath. As for all the things, that need to get done to get it out of our mind, I'm a big fan of lists. Not everybody is a list person. But I find when I have it all out there, it's not up here. I grew up in a household where, everything was spick and span, like not lived in essentially. And it was really a flip for me as I, one, not only came into a home and was sharing it with somebody who was like complete opposite of me, which is a whole other thing, but I had to learn, like my house is lived in. And, the laundry doesn't always need to be done. And, as long as you are living life and of course getting stuff like things have to get done. I know that. But instead of, needing to put a rush or that go, go, go energy to it, just, trust that it'll get done. One. And, another big mindset shift for me in, chores and things as I've been moving along my journey is to stop looking at them as chores. Stop looking at them as something that we have to get done and start like looking at it as a, this is my life and I love my life and I get to wear these clothes and I get to eat this food that I have to wash the dishes for. And, just make it more about the life you're living as opposed to the things you got to get done. Because if you're always
Mm.
at the stuff that needs to get done, it feels draining. It feels
Like
exhausting.
robotic.
Yeah, it does.
I get to pick up the toys as I'm looking at like my office is in the basement. And I mean, there's toys just everywhere. I get to, make the bed. And I will say it's not as easy as it sounds. There's definitely days where I'm like, I fall back into my old patterns, but like, I feel like that's the part of like the nervous system regulation work is like to even have the awareness so that I fell back into my old pattern, but to know like how to get back out. Do you agree with that?
I 100% agree with that. That's the way that our systems, our bodies work, our nervous system work. It always takes us back to like what we know, so like in a circle or whenever we are on like a new pattern, a new trajectory, a new thing, our system will always take periods where it goes back to the way that it used to be because it's protecting ourselves, even though, maybe we know that it's not actually protecting ourselves because we're miserable and we're chaotic and whatever. But it's kind of like our body's way of like, are you serious? Like, are you really ready to do this like different? Like, show me the proof, right? Our bodies are always looking for the proof in things. And until you really like bring in that security, that conscious effort all the time, the amount we go back, it becomes less and less. So have grace for when you go back and don't let it stop you because we all do. I actually I heard this, picture it as like an arrow essentially. So you like get pulled back, right? You get pulled back into your old routines just to like catapult and like shoot you further as like an arrow would. And so, like I said, each time it gets easier and easier and easier. You just need to make that conscious effort to go back to what you're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
One thing that I feel like I realize, and I work with my clients on this a lot is like thinking that like you have to do this maybe 5 times and then like that's the shift. And I'm like, this work is so long and like I just like, how do you explain that to your clients that it like the quick fixes like that our society has trained us is like this is not it. So like tell me your take on this.
I think just as you said it, it's not it. Like you said, society makes us think that everything is a quick fix, everything is this piece. It's recognizing that the healing journey, whatever layer, whatever season you are in, there's not an end point to it. It is continuous. And even if you, maybe worked through something last year, it can come and hit you like a ton of bricks. And you think like, oh, I thought I did that. There's another lesson. There's another layer that needs to be unraveled. And so, when you commit to this journey, it's not one for the weak. It can take you out at your knees. I know it has me a few times, but it's exactly that. There's no end point. It is a continuous evolvement of choosing yourself, which becomes a lot easier as you come back down to your body and are able to regulate yourself.
One thing I do want to also add is what's worked in like my situation for the presence part with the kids. I love that you said like get them involved. Like I think that's amazing. Like cooking, laundry, and my daughter, as she is like, Mom, teach me this. So she's actually like made me get her involved. And I'm like, no, I should just do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I love it.
But systems, like having systems in your household, like I have money systems, I have family systems, I have cleaning systems, like it's something that's not like I'm going to beat myself up if I don't do them, but it's something that is like rhythmic and also it's out of my head too. Like every day I do 1 load of laundry. Like, that's nothing, and that's how I keep up with it. Like, just having those little things, like, systems have helped my household completely and made me be more present because 'cause I'm like, "Okay, I'm not gonna order groceries today. I ordered those on Friday." You know what I mean? So, it's not you don't have to guess. You take the guesswork out of it. Do you have systems in your household?
Yeah, absolutely. I work off of seasons, actually. I like to
Mm.
change how things kind of run and whatever based on season because I don't like to stay the same, forever evolving, forever
You
growing.
do it with your cycle too?
Yes, I do.
I
Yes, I
can't
do.
wait.
Yeah.
Love
Yes,
it.
I
Tell me
do.
about it.
Yeah, it's changed my life, as um that has been my cycle work, and learning to connect there it was the first point where I learned to connect to my body. I remember sitting in a thing or doing like a course that I was drawn to by this woman, and she told me to connect to my body, and I looked at her like she had three heads because we're not taught this stuff, right? Like we don't know. So I've always, like, from a little girl, I've always been soft, a little more slower moving, not the go, go, go. Whereas my family was very the opposite, as is, much of the world. But I feel like I felt a lot of shame in that. And so, like, I tried to keep up with doing the things, getting it done, all of this stuff until I recognized that, like, oh, like, it doesn't have to be this way. I've always known this. And here it is. There are certain parts in my cycle where I'm cleaning more. There are certain parts in my cycle where the laundry piles up a little more, where I communicate better. Like, for example, this podcast, I am currently like in my late ovulation phase. So this is a perfect time where, like, I'm better at communicating. Whereas come into next week and I would be like all in my head and like, oh my gosh, like, can I do this? Or, how we go through those cycles and stuff. Yeah, it's a hard one to, like, kind of bundle up and put into one thing because it's different for everybody too. But yeah, it has led me deeper into my own feminine for sure. But yeah, yeah,
Love that for you. And that's gonna be my next, I feel like, chunk is to I even saw somebody, like, structuring their business, like, they shoot content in their,
yep,
like,
me too.
summer phase.
Hmm.
Really?
Yep, yep,
So awesome. I'm like, I need to do that because that's something that I don't know, just realizing, like, I don't wanna do that every day, you know?
yeah,
So being
yep,
intentional about it and
yep.
having the right energy and alignment, like, really does make a difference. Like, people can
It
feel
does.
it. So, so, so cool. Being a bonus mom, I
Hmm.
feel like is one of the most, like, quietly complex roles a woman can really, like, step into. So,
Uh-huh.
there are layers, I'm sure, of love and grief and identity and comparison and questions about, even belonging that, rarely gets talked about openly, I feel like. What would you want every bonus mom listening here today to, talk to her about, like, her place and her worth and the unique gift she brings to a family?
Yeah. Mm.
And also talk about, like, your inner work and, like, what you
Yeah.
walked through
Yeah, yeah.
that allowed you to really step
Well,
into
I
that
mean,
role.
my bonus mom journey is less than ideal. When people ask, I say I don't recommend it, although at the same time, I would not choose anything different. I love my family, I love my kids, they're everything. But I'm somebody who walks alongside a high conflict biological mother. And so that adds in a whole whack of layers and emotions and grief and things, but that being said, throughout my journey and, at the beginning, it was easy to be reactive to somebody who is kind of like at you. However, I had to learn that. One, because of the work that I do, I recognize that it's not necessarily personal, that it's nervous system. And so that has allowed me to have compassion for, her and who
Yeah.
she is and her experiences regardless of the uptick she tries to put into our life. I hold compassion for her, which has been a catalyst in my journey to be able to, recognize that she's trying her best. She's in, like so many of much of society, is in survival. What I would say to a bonus mom, your role is so valuable. There is, what you can teach those kids and the journey that you have come in and what you have to bring to the table is so important. And, of course, we're not bio mom, of course, like, not taking away from any of that, but we chose to take part in raising these kids that we didn't have to, so, like, recognize that choice as well, because despite the hard, despite the whatever, we made a choice to come into it. And regardless of whether people see you as a mother figure, and I say that because I have run into that like a lot in my life in regards to, my own family doesn't necessarily see my kids as my kids, because I'm not bio mom or friendships dissipating because whatever, regardless. So that has been a big piece of my journey too, and something that I've recognized in a lot of bonus moms too, that, because of the society and because of what we grow up in, we're not like recognized. There's that big
Yeah.
grief too, because, as much as, again, we are not bio mom, and I can't speak for everybody, but like I'm not trying to take the role of that. I'm just trying to be like a light and show these kids, be who I can be for them, and, teach them the skills that I wish I knew when I was a kid or growing up or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, blended families it's a very prominent now.
Hmm.
What would you say? I love that you said, like, I just have compassion for her and like realize that like that's not like that's her nervous system. Like that was such a good way to phrase that. How have you like taken your work and to like support your kids? Like tell me a little bit about how you've trickled into that.
Since we've lived together, which is we're going on like 8 years almost at this point, I've always been like, on the yoga mat. They see my mornings for one, right? My youngest, not so much anymore as he's gotten older. It's kind of been like, no. But when he was younger, he would be on the yoga mat with me and like trying all different things, being that person, number one. I'm big on helping them feel, helping them understand like feeling. And so, for example, my youngest, he struggles to use his words, as can be common amongst younger siblings. You have everybody speaking for you kind of thing. And so since he was little, I've always had him, I guess, connect to his heart. So we kind of just sit there and, do some deep breaths and like put his hand, close your eyes and breathe and listen to what it has to say. And we've been doing that for years and years. And it just helps him, come out into his own. Boys, because of things and the way that they like to be. There's very different dynamics between households, and so the transition here into like a softer, more present life can be very difficult. And so, one of the biggest things that I do is, try and bring the energy up. Have a playlist when they're coming in, so we're like automatically like able to transition and like dance around the house and, just kind of like get into it, and so that the transition is so much easier, and so their moods aren't shifting from like, am I supposed to like it here, or all of the things that kind of come along with high conflict stuff and the way. Yeah. But those are my biggest, supporting the transition, being the model for them, and, helping them connect to themselves and their voice, and trusting them first and foremost.
I love that you have built like a safe space for them. I just like,
Mhm.
individuals who come from, families, parents who have decided to part ways. Like, you know, I deep down think that, it's probably supposed to be, for the right reasonings.
Mhm.
But I still know that there's a big chunk of safety that
Yeah,
disrupts their nervous system, that I feel
absolutely.
like kids need, like, yes, the support, how daunting it is, the divorce of, or
Mhm.
whatever. I don't
Yep.
even know if they were married before, but the divorce of, parents, and that weighing on those individuals. But I feel like sometimes we never even think about like what it does to, the children, and to
Mhm.
I always say, like, even my husband and I are together and we, have our kids, and it's the communication is hard enough. I can't even imagine having another, family in this mix to communicate. It just puts a different layer on it, which I think is beautiful too. If there's two safe spaces, like this can be a beautiful, story. And I've
Yep.
seen it play out,
Yep.
multiple times with my friends and stuff. But I also just want to bring like recognition into like these children, like building those safe spaces for them in both
Mhm.
households is super important because of
So
the
important.
situation that they've been in.
Yeah. So important.
And you gave some really great practices. I feel like this has been amazing. So, some tangible practices, with yourself, grounding yourself, but also with your children. I love the playlists, the transitions, I think are really key in
Mhm.
just parenting in general.
Mhm.
So, where can my audience find you? What resources do you have available? Share with us there. I will put it all in the show notes, but I just want to have you speak to it.
Yeah, of course. So my website is probably your best bet, which is www.thefeminineflow.net. I have taken a separation from social media. I've hired like a person to help me with that because I obviously also recognize the importance of marketing and all of those things. And so not as active there anymore. So my website, I have a my email list that I send, reminders to breathe, letters from the heart. I love to write, so I love to blog. I wrote a blog a long time ago about the effects of a bonus mom, essentially. I have a free community as well, which you can access through my website, through my email list, and a free breathwork practice. Yeah, I have I do a variety of things, but I have a signature program, which is my passion project, which is really about, dropping the armor and softening into our power. So yeah, I think that covers the basis of things.
Well, you have been amazing. It's been so great getting to know you and your
Yeah,
story. And thank you so much for sharing your expertise. And I'm sure that we will talk again soon.
absolutely. It was so great to be here. Thank you so much.